Podcasting from Astrolab Studios, this is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows that have faded from the collective consciousness and didn't quite make the impact that they intended. This week, Harsh Realm, episodes 3 and 4.
I'm here as a friend, Tom.
Then try staying out of my way.
I've been to see Sophie.
She's gonna get us caught. Shut up.
She's going to have a child, Tom. Your child. Open it. She needs you, Tom. We need you to stop Santiago.
Look, if you're not gonna go, then let me.
He wants to destroy the world.
Not the way I see it.
The real world, Tom. By planning the ultimate terrorism so that Harsh Realm is all that exists.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the show where we revisit canceled sci-fi television and see if it deserves a second look. I'm Luke, here with my co-host, Jordan. How you doing, buddy?
Just paying at the pump.
Paying at the pump.
Remember that?
Yeah, that's your favorite line from last week.
Pay at the pump.
Pay at the pump.
That's all I want to do is just pay at the pump.
You can.
Take it means whatever you need it to mean.
Is this what you're whipping out at work these days?
Yeah, pay at the pump.
Anyone needs anything done?
Yeah. Pay at the pump.
So it sounds like a good way to keep your job.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I put a little something together for us this week to get a little deeper into Harsh Realm. So
how could we get any deeper?
If you're ready, Jordan,
Yeah.
brace yourself, because we're about to dock the podcast with Harsh Realm's fan base.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
Get it? It's like you're docking a ship with a...
Yeah, I got that. But
Yeah,
so
there
we're
you go.
talking about their fans?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about what fan base is out
All
there.
right.
Jordan, I worked on that all week. You didn't love it.
Well, add a little music there.
Oh, great. Really, put some shine on that turd. Okay, Jordan. I'm sure this won't surprise you that Dark Realms fandom is pretty minimal.
Yeah, I've looked a little bit online and there's not much.
I mean, it's hard to hold it against the show. 3 episodes aired on Fox, then it went off air for 6 months, and the rest were dumped on FX. So, not a lot of people maybe cared to watch it. We talked about this a little off air, but there was a Reddit AMA recently with Chris Carter. I don't know how recently, actually, but at some time in the past. And I went through it, and there was only a single question about Harsh Realm, and not even related to the show. It was just kind of like, what was it like to work on a show that didn't succeed? So that's how much people care. Like no one was.
I saw that there was something like, because it's funny, we both looked at it. There was something like 700 questions or 700 comments or whatever it was, and literally only one was about Harsh Realm. Everyone just wanted to talk. I'm sure there's a few Millennium questions in there, but it was just X-Files.
Yeah, no, for sure. I dug around a bit on Facebook to see if there was any pages for Harsh Realm. There was one, but like it was a pretty dead page. Like one of the last comments was in July of 2013, where this guy Alberto asked, "Do you know if and when the casket will be released in Italian?" I assume he meant cassette, but he wrote casket.
Yeah, I thought that was giving something away, like giving something away about the show.
Oh, a big spoiler!
Yeah, big spoiler. But
about
no,
the casket in Harsh Realm.
It's just you're just making fun of someone whose English is their second
No,
language.
that was just his comment, and I also for briefly thought, I'm like, casket. I'm like, oh, I see. You mean cassette. Also, it's 2013. There are no cassettes.
You nailed him twice.
Got ya, Alberto.
Yeah, take it. What is that? What's his actual handles? Just Alberto?
I didn't write down his last name.
Alberto _ Harsh Realm 632 fan.
Yeah, that's how Facebook works.
Oh, is it Facebook? Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about Reddit.
You're not on there anyway. You don't know.
I don't know.
And then I dug around a bit on Twitter. Again, mentions of the show are pretty few and far between. Usually it's mentioned by like someone who's a big fan of 90s television or a fan of Chris Carter, and it's usually in a list of other shows that they liked.
Right.
Harsh Realm will be like very few people talking directly about the show.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it mentioned in lists of like shows that shouldn't have been canceled.
Yeah, that seemed to be the most of them. But I was able to dig up one fan who talked about it directly on Twitter.
Oh, yeah?
So I'll give you a little insight into this person before I get into his tweets here. He was a self-identified rapper from New York. Mm-hmm. And I listened to a few of his raps, but the majority of his audio posts were 12-minute rants. One in particular, I'll just give you an example of his rants, where it was about America pulling its troops out of South Korea, and how he had written a multi-page letter to President Trump to tell him about a remote viewing session he had in a dream foretelling a nuclear holocaust if Trump didn't stick to his guns and pull those troops out of there.
Oh.
So that, I think, is probably the biggest fan I found. Here are his 2 tweets very recently. In the last kind of like month, he's been tweeting these
I was
things.
going to ask you how, but when you said Trump, I was like, oh, I assumed that that these were from years ago, but so they're recent.
Very recent. Here are his 2 tweets from the last few weeks about Harsh Realm. Just like Harsh Realm, it's all about locating and isolating and properly identifying the glitch into real-world Matrix shit. Oh, best believe, found a few.
Oh, best believe is great.
Yeah.
You best believe.
So I guess what he's saying is he's found a few glitches where he walked through walls.
Yeah. Oh, of course he has.
I thought that was very good. He's found some, so we're in Harsh Realm.
Yeah.
And his other tweet was, "You ever see the TV show called Harsh Realm? Start that shit from the first episode, and after 3rd episode, tell me what's on your mind." Which I think is actually a great lead-in to us watching the 3rd episode of the show.
I like the advice, though, that he had, that is start with episode 1. Because, a lot of times when people tell you to watch something or read a book, they're like, start at page 65 or start at episode 13. No one tells you like he does, because you know why? Because he can see all the glitches. So he knows start from the beginning.
It's funny. I don't know if that would be my advice on Harsh Realm.
You know what? You're probably right. Don't actually start with the first episodes. Yes, he's wrong. What am I talking about? This guy's wrong.
All right. Well, that's about all I found fan-wise. It's very minimal out there. This guy was the highlight of my journey into their derelict fan base just floating in space.
We can probably cut this. I was looking to see if there was any fan art, and when I typed in Harsh Realm, there wasn't much, but what I did find was a picture, which was, I think it's 2 like foxes that are in an embrace, and the only thing that stuck out was that the person very lovingly drew a hairy butthole in one of them. And that came up for Harsh Realm for some reason.
That was the Google image search for Harsh Realm.
Yeah, it was very weird. I was like, oh, okay.
It's just lovingly drawn in.
Yeah, it was that was the focus. Like, it's like, oh yeah, foxes, but let's get the meat and potatoes here, the butthole. Anyway, people,
It takes all kinds, Jordan.
It does. Yeah, pay at the pump.
All right. Here is the synopsis for episode 3, Inga Fossa. Hobbs and Pinocchio seek out an ID chip forger in hopes of accessing a portal used to bridge both worlds.
Sorry, what's the title of this? Inga Fossa?
Inga Fossa.
Huh.
Which is a great way to start this episode, because we start by following our mysterious government woman we've seen in past episodes, whose name is Inga Fossa.
Oh, right. Well, it's funny. I got through most of this episode without realizing what her name is, and I'm sure they say it right off the bat, but I just referred to her as the brunette.
They actually say her name out loud at all.
Oh, they
don't? I caught it on a TV screen somewhere when she uses it. She scans through a door.
I got it somewhere too, because I wrote down Inga later on in my notes, and I assumed I had just missed it.
No, that's why you shouldn't be surprised. She remains largely nameless for most of the episode.
Right.
Anyway, we start with her. She's in the real world. She's at some big high-level meeting of army brass. Supposed to tell us, I guess, that she works for the military. She then drives off to another military base where Sophie, I guess, has been following her. She's like, Sophie is stalking her, trying to find out what's going on. When Inga gets to this military base, she immediately goes into a room with like a reclining dentist-style chair. Mm-hmm. And when she lies down, a light travels across the roof. It's kind of like being inside of a photocopier.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did notice that.
It was exactly like being
well, what I
inside
noticed
a
was she's clearly going to go into Harsh Realm here, but they've at least given some sort of visual cue to the audience that she's going to Harsh Realm, as opposed to the first episode where Skippy goes in. I guess he doesn't. There's nothing.
There's no visual cue. Yeah, they've added an idea that they scan your body.
Right.
And then she gets up off the chair and she walks in, and she walks into another high level meeting, this time with Santiago.
That's what I loved, and I'll just cut in real quick. Is that how boring is it that you have the ability to travel to different dimensions, but what you're doing in each dimension is just having meetings.
Yeah, different meetings.
You're just stuck in a meeting. Like being in a meeting is the most boring thing a human being can do, and she's doing it in 2 different universes. So well done, Inga.
She had to commute in a car to the second one and then into a different world. It was a long one.
She should really time her schedule to be like, guys, I can't make the 12 o'clock meeting in Harsh Realm. I got a meeting, in real world. And just time it so she doesn't have to go to meetings. I'm not going to tell her to do her job, but
that's true. I mean, they're not the military in Santiago aren't talking to each other, so they'll never know. I don't know. Did you catch this at the meeting? Like, we kind of get a sense of what Santiago's been up to. He starts talking about, like, he's taken over 5 states. He starts talking about he thinks this is what the founding fathers would have wanted. If they could see the state of America, they'd want to reset it. It's a weird. I don't entirely know what he means.
Well, we're to episode 3, and all of the dialogue that Santiago has is pretty weird and clumsy. It's like they want to give him motivations and reasons for being this dictator, but when he starts speaking, you're like, does he even know why he's doing this?
It's very unclear. And also, I think Inga Fossa says this, but I think she says at some point to him, "Long live the new monarchy."
Yes, she does. Yeah,
which I wasn't sure if she's being sarcastic. So I'm just like, I think the founding fathers, even if they were going to reset it, they wouldn't install a monarchy. It seems like that's the thing they didn't want.
No, I think they did.
Oh, he's like, if they could see what happened, they'd really want Britain to come back, reset up here. It was a good call. Anyway, what we really learned from this, it seems like in this episode, they're really establishing that this Inga woman is like a double agent. She's playing both sides of the government.
Right.
And in fact, Santiago says, which is weird, he asks her if she's gotten any further into figuring out who's been leaking information to Sophie about Harsh Realm, which Sophie hasn't done anything. How has Santiago figured out? Like, she's...
Yeah, it's one of those lines to let you know that she's playing both sides. Both sides don't know she's playing both sides. But you're like, this whole episode, Sophie spends literally sleeping in garbage.
No, I know, it's
right?
true.
She follows Inga to this building and then at the beginning of the episode.
End of the episode, when they like bookend it,
she's just been waiting outside the door, sleeping in garbage.
She looks like a homeless person. She's sleeping on a cardboard box next to a pile of garbage in the military.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't think she's too much of a threat. And literally, why she's sleeping in garbage? Because she followed Inga all the way to the building, and the door was locked. Yeah, and that was the end of her plan. She's like, I didn't have a key, so I guess I'll sleep in this garbage.
And bare minimum, 24 hours has passed in Harsh Realm.
Yeah.
So she's been in that garbage a long time.
She's been there a while, yeah.
But yeah, that kind of sets us up for the episode. We kind of catch up with, in Harsh Realm, with Hobbs, Pinocchio, the mute woman who they still have not given a name.
Yeah, I don't know what her name is. And also, they've given her nothing to do.
No, they don't. They know more what to do with the dog who's still in the show.
I know.
Than they know what to do with this poor woman who they've added to as a cast.
But we should mention, if it wasn't clear before, this is the first time we've seen that someone other than Santiago, because they've mentioned it, Inga has the ability to come and go from Harsh Realm as she pleases. So we know now for a fact it is possible to come and go, even though for whatever reason the government has made it very clear you can't.
It is a good question. I mean, I don't have a lot to get into on this, I guess, but why? Obviously, there's a way to get in from the reality side, and I guess because Santiago controls the photocopier room in Harsh Realm, that's the only way back.
Right, maybe.
It does, yeah, but it does raise more questions than it probably answers. I will say this episode was a lot cleaner than the last couple. Right off the bat, they set up a goal for them. They are looking for a forger who's going to help them get ID passes that are going to get them to that photocopier room so Hobbs can go home. And so they go to find the inventively named Freddy the Forger.
Yeah. And I know we're going to talk about it, but coming up is by far my favorite thing that's ever happened in Harsh Realm, and I can't imagine anything ever on the show is ever going to be as good. But continue.
This was, you're not wrong, this was a huge improvement to the show. To find him, they go to an underground fighting ring, I guess. They call them zip fights.
Yeah.
And as we arrive,
why do they call them zip fights?
It's explained to us as we arrive. They're in this tiny little octagon, like a UFC fight, but it's real small.
See, and the weird thing is the way it was shot. I was like, is that a smaller ring or is that just a weird perspective thing? Because it wasn't clear at first.
No. And what happens in this ring is they fight 2 zip files against each other. That's what we're told.
Yeah. We're literally told that in the world, they know that there are computer programs that have consciousness. It's so weird.
Yeah, we're now to understand that even though it's an exact world like ours, they also understand the idea that there are zip files where you would compress data down into a smaller file.
Yeah.
Which in this world, there's like two, I guess they're the owners of the zip files. They're two different guys dressed as luchadors, kind of like stunting like professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
And they bring out these big metal dog carriers, which are like shaking around because like the zip files inside are so riled up, they're getting ready to fight. So I was like, okay, this is going to be like dog fighting in Harsh Realm or something. That's what I was expecting because they put dog carriers down and they're really angry. And when they open up the carriers for the zip fight to start, out comes two little tiny CGI versions of the luchadors we've just seen who start fighting in the tiny ring.
Yeah. The little tiny people. So the zip files in Harsh Realm are, for whatever crazy idea,
they're compressed file versions of the larger person.
Yeah. It's the weirdest. And it's like, I loved it so much because it's so remarkably stupid.
It's so awesome. It's the greatest.
And just remember, Harsh Realm was created to be a war simulation for troops to fight and gain experience in war simulations. In what world would you ever need to zip yourself into a smaller version?
Well, that would never come up in reality.
It would never come up in reality. And I mean, we can start picking through a ton of things in Harsh Realm, but it's so ludicrous. But I really enjoyed it because it gave at least the slightest bit of levity to a show that is so humorless and serious that I was like, yeah, sure, yes, I'm all for this. Please, more weird stuff, something.
I think we'll see this more across these two episodes, but I feel like the writers started like taking a different spin. Like it starts to feel more like that show Reboot.
I remember Reboot.
Which was just a cartoon about what it would be like living in a computer. They're like starting to treat the world more like that. It's like, I don't know, what would happen if you lived in a computer? You zip yourself into a tiny person and then you have those two people fight. Like it's starting to feel more fun.
Yeah, well, that's my hope. Anyways, so I liked it. It was funny and it was stupid, but sure, why not? Zip files for some reason.
The little fighters were so fun and funny to look at.
Yeah.
Like a real crude CGI versions of these luchadors, and they just like start kicking each other and jumping around. It's so fun. Anyway, to this point that Pinocchio tracks down Freddy in this fight, and it's really weird. Freddy's in some sort of weird leather sub-dom relationship with this other guy.
Yeah.
And the only way Pinocchio can get Freddy to come with him is he has to beat up his dom. Yeah. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Just they set it up so I guess there's something for Pinocchio to do. The only reason I really mention it because obviously they rescue him from this guy, but because when he fights this dom, they both fall into the octagon, and you get this great cutaway where the two little zip files like dive out of the way. The guys fall. Like the little zip files are the best little characters.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought this is a better show. I want to know about these little zip files' lives. Do they have relationships with other little zip files? Do they have little tiny houses in Harsh Realm? Like that's a more interesting show. It's a computer world, and they're little tiny people that live in this large world, and I don't know.
Even if they're just the pets of their like larger masters, still very good.
Yeah.
But that's how we finally like hook up with Freddy the Forger, who's gonna help them get these ID cards. Unfortunately, as soon as they get him, San Diego's army invades because he's taking over another state. So they raid this. I mean, that's I guess what we're left to assume. It's never very clear, but they invade the underground fighting ring, start arresting people left and right. They actually arrest the mute woman so that she is out of the show.
Yeah, that's your classic Harsh Realm.
They arrest the mute woman and the dog.
Yeah. Well, do they arrest the dog because it just shows up later?
What it is they left the dog in the car, and then someone opens the car, the dog runs out, and they're like, "Oh, we also arrest you, dog." Yeah. But I will say though, when they arrest her, we get a little piece of Harsh Realm slang. This is, I think, also where you can see the writer starting to get a feel for this, because when they arrest her, they're like, "Oh, put her with the rest of the coin slots."
Yeah,
which I think is just a now slang term for VCs.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. I wasn't sure if that's what it was or it was like a really terrible misogynistic comment.
No, I actually think it is the writers being like, what else can we call these non-player characters? I thought coin slots was a great term. As for Hobbs, Pinocchio, and Freddy, they make an escape before the army gets to them, so they're not arrested.
There's another convenient glitch.
There's a glitch.
It actually starting to bother me because it starts becoming a thing on the show where anytime they're sort of in not an unwinnable situation, but they're in a tough spot, there happens to be a glitch they can use to get out. It's like, okay, enough times.
I guess so. I like this glitch a bit more. This also felt like the same thing. This one also felt like the writers were finding a bit better use because they glitch into what they call a digital void or an unprogrammed game space. Have you ever played a game and you clip through a wall? Do you know this term, clipping through a wall? Mm-hmm. Like where you step out of the game's infrastructure and kind of now you're behind the scenes and like you can see out, but none of the kind of characters looking for you can see you back. And that's kind of what they've done here. They step out of the game and they in fact wipe off some of the black from the wall and they're able to look in on Waters, who's in the bathroom, and they can see him and he can't see them. And I was like, oh, this is actually, they're starting to get a use.
I did think that was
ideas.
pretty good.
I mean, it's still, they're getting further and further away of the premise of this is just a real world simulation. Like there's kind of feeling more actually like a video game now, but I'm all for that.
What I actually thought, and I might be giving too much credit to the show, is that maybe things originally were a representation of the world, but as time has gone on, just the very nature of it being its own isolated world, things have evolved in a different way than they've evolved in our real world. That's how I've been sort of accepting the inconsistencies. And I don't know why I'm trying to rationalize it, but that's what I thought.
That's probably a good reason as any, I think. I mean, what else could it be?
Yeah. It doesn't really matter.
So
I'm just hoping there's more little wrestler people and stuff like that.
I know we were just complimenting the show, but this is maybe one of the show's downfalls, is they're looking at Waters, and Hobbs is just like getting furious. He's so angry still at Waters for killing the VC version of Sophie.
I know. He's still going on about it. It's like, she wasn't real.
He wants to shoot him where he stands for killing the virtual character of his wife. And I'm just like, this guy is not getting it. He's not understanding where he is.
Yeah, he's for some reason, he's the protagonist of the show. He's the lead. He's the main character. And he's by far the dumbest character. He's just stupid.
He definitely cannot pick up on what's happening around him.
I think he still may not know he's in Harsh Realm.
I mean, they smash through the glass that they're hiding behind, basically to knock down Waters and threaten him with a gun. And unfortunately, this is the problem with the other show, is the other character, Pinocchio, kind of has his own problems because they knock him down and then Pinocchio because he was at a urinal when they knocked him over, Pinocchio makes a bunch of hyper masculine, very toxic dick references for a bit. He's like a worse version of Jake Cardigan. He's just like the most awful person.
I think I think the point of him is to be a bit of a not comic relief, but something a little bit lighter, like this duo. You know, they're kind of opposite and stuff. But first, I don't know why he's even there because he makes it very clear he doesn't even really like Hobbs, but he keeps tagging along for some reason. And then you're right, the only things he makes are kind of gross comments. So I was like, so why is he here? Just because your lead is so bland?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He's probably meant as comic relief, but he's so repulsive. Like everything he says is so repulsive.
Right.
That I keep thinking, I'm like, we're supposed to not like. I keep telling myself, I'm like, oh, we're not supposed to like him. He's supposed to be like a bad character, and I'm just like, no, wait, he's the only of two characters.
Right. That's it. Yeah, because
we are supposed to like him.
There's the mute lady, and she's never in anything, and then the dog.
Anyway, the whole point of knocking over Waters turns out that Freddy the Forger can cut out his ID tag from his chest, and they're one ID tag closer to being able to break into San Diego HQ and then like zap back to the real world. So
and we're gonna see this in the coming scenes, but the reason they want the little tag in their chest, which we've seen before, is it has everyone's. It's like it's a passport or whatever it is. It's got
an ID tag. It can test where you are.
But here's the thing: if you could just cut off someone's ID tag, like people would be doing that constantly. Do you know what I mean? Like because what you will be seeing in the next couple scenes is that there's no sort of match to your face to your ID tag. So you could just flash it to a scanner and they're like, yeah, you go by. There's no dual security here. There's no secondary.
It's just a magnetic scan card. Anybody could use it. You just need to grab it. You just have to cut it out of some man's chest.
It's just like, well, this isn't a very good system.
This goes back a little to the last point, but the only reason Freddy the Forger kind of agrees to help them get all these tags and get in there is because he wants to also go to the real world. Like as soon as he finds out that's where they want these tags for, he's like, I'm in. I want to go. I'm a virtual character. I want to get out of this world. And again, Hobbs just can't figure out why that, like Pinocchio's like, you can't, that'll never work. You don't have a body out there. And Hobbs still seems to be like, No, we should let him try.
Yeah.
What's
he still has this thing of, if I want something enough and I try hard enough, it'll just happen. It's
Just gotta believe.
yes, but that's not going to happen.
There's nowhere for that virtual character to go.
Why? Physics.
It is very
That's
funny.
why.
This is his whole. You're right. His character trait is he's a perfect Boy Scout who's probably a little stupid.
Yeah. Not probably. He's stupid.
Anyway, it's not important because from here they drive back to Santiago City. Mm-hmm. It's very confusing. Last time they went in, it was so tough to get inside of it. This time they kind of drive in casually to the city.
And I'm happy every time they go to Santiago City, because it's the only time in the show you ever get where it's light out and it just is not grimy. It's the only time ever in the show, because every time they're out in the forest or they're out in the, and it's just like, it's all just brown, and I'm so bored of looking
Anywhere
at it.
Santiago doesn't control is a shithole. Anywhere he controls is utopia.
Yeah.
So
Spend more time in Santiago City, because at least I can see the characters.
That's true. I'm just going to skim through this because not really a lot happens. They break into some major's house who's been dealing ID tags to Freddy the Forger because they need to get one more ID tag. It's very funny. They break in and then they just like cut this guy's also out of his chest. They're not there to get other ones. They're just stealing this major's. They leave and they're like, all right, now we got to get to San Diego HQ because we have enough ID tags now. They have a car, I think. They seem to have driven there, but they decide the best way to get to this place is public transit. So
I know. I don't know why they decided that.
they get on a bus, but what I did like is your little ID tag is also your bus pass.
Yeah, it was
very convenient.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, that's what's funny about it. That
You just
the
hold
system,
your chest
the system
up.
makes it's like, yeah, you scan everything. I'm assuming you can buy stuff that way too. But again, it's when they scan, and you'll see on like a screen will come up and they'll be like, scan. It's Johnny whatever, but the picture's clearly not the same
Yeah, it's
person.
a different. Yeah.
But no one seems to care.
No one's looking. Like they're all drone-driven buses. No one cares. So that's their plan. I guess they'll just take this bus. I like seeing how public transport works. You rarely see that in future shows.
It works exactly
Just like ours thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You just
like
scan
our
your
real-
chest, and then your bus pass is red. They see if you paid this month, and you get on the bus.
Pretty much the same.
Pretty good. Except Pinocchio won't go because I don't know why. He doesn't want to go back to the real world. So he refuses to go, and it just
Yeah,
leads...
he's a real party pooper, that Pinocchio.
He's just like, well, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
But it's great. They're basically talking on the bus. Hobbs is on the bus. Freddy the Forger's on the bus. The bus drives away, revealing next to the bus, Waters is just standing there with a whole army.
I know.
I mean, someone saw that.
Yeah,
Right.
It's just it's a weird thing of like, and yeah, because now Pinocchio's like, oh come on, you guys were there the whole time. You didn't just drive up.
It made a dramatic cut, I guess, because
Yeah.
the bus leaves and then like Waters is just standing behind it. But it's a very funny because you're like, everyone would have seen you. Again, not important, but what is this podcast if not shitting over the show?
Can I mention one weird little thing?
Yeah.
Again, in Santiago City, you see a lot of like propaganda ads, like you would assume when you see dictators and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know why he would even have to run these propaganda ads, because he's controlling everything. He controls this world, right? So why don't he just reprogram people to just like him? Like, I know he can't control the actual humans that are in the game, but he doesn't care about them anyways, because he's just, through the right of his might, he's making them bend to his will. So why even run propaganda ads? Do you know what I mean?
It's a good. I mean, it just relates back to why put chips in people's chest you can easily take out. Like, you're in a computer program. There's got to be a better way.
Right.
Like, I unfortunately, I think it just boils down to
There's some holes in the idea.
there's some holes in the idea. Although they do mention in this episode, not even that the places he runs are bad. They actually say they're literal utopias. Pinocchio seems to admire them. So it's actually nice living where he works. Like, you're not actually being controlled.
And here's another point. one more point.
Give it to me.
We've seen that when someone dies, the virtual characters die, they glitch out, or
Yeah.
whatever they say. But in terms of the actual game, again, going to the idea that this is a simulation for war, isn't it important to know what to do with dead bodies? Like, because that is not a real world scenario, right? Someone dies and they just fuzz away. It's like, well, but that's not how things would be.
I guess, but this isn't a training program for the CDC. Soldiers don't have to worry about bodies.
All right.
Gonna get real nitpicky on you.
Yeah, I know.
You're so mad right now. Just fuming.
I'm not fuming. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
It's got some problems.
All right, let's move on. We
let's
can
get back
dig
into
into
the
the
show.
problems that are in the show endlessly. But there's some good stuff too.
Yeah, we already mentioned the wrestlers.
Anyway, Waters takes Pinocchio, tosses him in prison with the mute woman and the dog. It's the last we'll see of him for the rest of the episode. He's out of it. We're now just following Hobbs and Freddy on their way to Santiago Security Central so they can get into this portal room and go back to reality.
Isn't it great, though, that they have Freddy the Forger show up and get all the lines that they could just be giving to the mute woman? Obviously, the mute woman can't talk, but there's no reason in the show they couldn't have just written around and said...
She could forge things. Yeah.
She could forge things, and she's with her. It's like, no, we got to get rid of her again. It's like, why did you even make her a character? So far, 3 episodes, she's done nothing.
No, I know.
It's such a weird thing to go, here's a new character who's going to go around with Hobbs. It's the old Jake Cardigan. They were partnering him up with someone and leaving Sid at home. That's what they're doing. Again, it's such a weird thing.
It is a very weird technique to have this character you just have no use for. So at this security center, they're going to go use their ID tags to get back home. But Inga Fossa stops them, and she gives this big speech about how Santiago is planning the ultimate terrorism, which will mean Harsh Realm's the only thing that exists anymore.
Yeah, that's what they've either hinted at or kind of talked around so far, is that the big plan that Santiago has is that he wants to destroy the real world and only have Harsh Realm exist. Again, I don't know how this is actually possible at all, but that's his plan.
Logistical problems.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, but whatever. He's apparently worked those out.
She wants Hobbs to stay in Harsh Realm so that he can fight Santiago from the inside, and he gives him a letter from his fiance, and essentially this convinces him to stay. It's not entirely clear why, but I guess it's just because he's such a Boy Scout. He's going to stay, and he's going to finish his mission.
Well, by giving the letter, he does know that it's now possible to be able to come back and forth.
I guess so, yeah.
Harsh
He
Realm.
knows this woman has come and gone. I guess you're right. That actually kind of gives him some hope, I guess.
Yeah.
And they really are, like, they're in the room while she's doing this, so he's seeing the portal back. Like, he's gotten that close. So it's not an impossible task to get there.
Yeah, so we should say this happens right, like he sees the chair at this point.
Yeah, they're in the room with the chair.
They're in the room. He could literally get into the chair and feasibly go home. But he doesn't because
she convinces him.
Like, and you don't want to do that. And
he has a bigger mission to complete.
And because there's more episodes of the TV show, that's why he does it.
Yeah, we gotta get back. I will say though, this should have been the second episode. Like he should have got this close to it.
Yeah.
And chosen to stay. That would have been a good setup. At this point, he's been convinced to stay, but we need to see what was going to happen. Santiago and Hobbs were actually planning a trap the whole time. Since it is kind of funny, this is a weird plan. This is kind of a Quaid from Beyond Westworld style plan. Is they stole the chip from Waters, so he immediately reported like, "Oh, they took my chip," so they know where he is now because Waters' chip is in his chest. They're like, "Let's wait until he gets right to the chair, and then we'll jump out and get him."
Yeah.
Even though I was thinking about it, I'm like, you could have just tracked him down at any point, right?
Yeah, it's like there's a jewel thief, and they're like, should we get him just as he's about to enter the museum? Like, no. Let's wait till he gets right till the very end. And he's just about to pick up that jewel. Then we grab him. It's
Yeah.
like, well, okay.
It's all been a long scam, but he's gone. They've missed him. Another in what seems to be a long line of bad guy plans that are overly complicated.
Yeah.
But it's great because when they walk in the room where they expect to find him, Freddy the Forger is still there in the chair, and he's like begging them to send him to the real world.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Poor Freddy.
I was actually really hoping they were just going to do it because I really wanted to see what would happen if they sent a VC to tried to send him.
Actually, I didn't think about it. That would have been a good scene because what would have been cool is they'd have done it and you would have seen him.
Something. You would have seen what would happen.
Well, what would be great is if he digitizes or whatever it is, and then for a moment in the real world, you see this like hologram, then just fade away because
something. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I thought it would be cool. I mean, maybe they're saving it because they have a bigger plan for it.
Right.
But basically, they pull him out of the chair and they drag him away. And Santiago tells a soldier to go to execute him. And I'll grant you this: it happens off screen, but I'm gonna call this for Hobbs. This is 3 out of 3 VC helpers he's killed.
Yeah.
He kills a VC helper.
I wrote that down.
Every episode. 3 for 3. Good for you, Hobbs. You're really sticking to your guns.
And another way you're showing that Inga is playing everyone is that she seems to be playing Santiago. She seems to be playing Sophie, but then she's also playing Waters because she shows up at one point.
Yeah, they have a romantic interlude.
Yeah, and like they start kissing, and it's like classic dames. And they start kissing, and they imply in PG TV that they're gonna have sex on the conference table for some reason.
Oh, I forgot
and
about
then
that.
and then later on,
that's right. They're in the meeting room, and she starts taking off her shirt as if they're gonna have sex. in the center of Santiago's meeting room, like, someone's going to walk in on you.
Yeah, they're like literally in the middle of like battle plans. And she's like, I don't know. And anyways, near this part of the episode, she goes up to Waters and she says to him, like he comes close to her. I don't know if it's to embrace her or whatever it is, but then she goes, we can't risk this. It's too dangerous. I was like 5 minutes ago, you were just having sex with the guy on the table. No problem then. But I think the point was that she's fickle. Well,
I think she's playing him is the idea.
Yeah, she's playing him as well. So, and you're like, oh, we don't know where she stands.
Yeah.
She's basically, here's the thing.
Classic X-Files.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's classic. All of the characters are tropes of X-Files characters for one.
If you're a mysterious government figure, we don't know whose side you're on. That's how it works in a Chris Carter show. I mean, yeah, that's definitely where it's going. I mean, the show basically wraps up here. Hobbs goes and he rescues Pinocchio, Mute Woman, the dog, all the other VCs from the zip fights out of like a prison they're being held in. I assume Fossa gave him a key to get in there. And then we kind of see her come back to the real world.
And here's what's great. Here's what's weird. She came back naked.
Well, she came back naked, A. She doesn't come back in the chair she was in when she went in. She's now laying in a bed with the same wires and cables hooked up to her face that we saw when Hobbs was in the bed.
Right. Conceivably, the government place that they're holding these people.
I guess once you get scanned in the photocopier room, someone goes in, pulls your limp body off the chair, moves you to a bed,
takes your
clothes off, plugs a bunch of wires into you for reasons that are unclear, and then when you scan yourself in the photocopy room in Harsh Realm, you then just wake up back in your body wherever they've moved you to.
I think that people just liked in Terminator when Arnold Schwarzenegger came back naked. I think people just like that. Like when you time travel or anything, you just come back naked.
I guess so.
And they're like, yeah, she should be naked, right?
You're really hung up on the naked part.
Well, it just seems weird. It's weird to go in clothes and then have no clothes later.
Yeah, so I just don't understand like why they have to move the body. It doesn't. Yeah. There's a process of going to Harsh Realm that we're really missing out on, and no one's explaining to us.
Yeah, we just want to hear what the engineer who's designed it. He's like, all right, it's interesting because
who's the guy who moves them and like just like let's just move the body. Like whose job is that?
Again, better show. Can you imagine the show's just about the guys who have to move? You never ever see this digital world, but it's just about the guys who they have this crappy job of moving bodies from room to room.
Well, that's the guy who unravels the conspiracy. That's a more interesting character to watch that conspiracy from, in my opinion.
But what we do see here, though, is after we see a big secret about Pinocchio.
She wakes up next to Pinocchio, his sleeping real world body, and as the camera pans across Pinocchio's body, we see he's really the Batman villain, Two-Face.
Yeah, he did. He looked exactly like he's got one half of his face is burned.
Yeah, half of his face is just like badly scarred and burned, so he looks like Two-Face.
Yeah, but it's also like, it's not that bad.
That's why he won't go back to the real world, because he's just so ugly back in the real world.
He's so vain, and so I guess what they've implied is that he knew he looked that way and maybe he volunteered to go into the game.
Well, and maybe he's further disabled in the real world. Like maybe he can't stand or something like that. Right. That's what I'm assuming. He was badly injured at some point. They put him in. He doesn't want to leave because he doesn't want to go back to his like less than perfect body.
Makes way more sense to put injured troops that are still mentally capable into the game as opposed to Hobbs, who had finished his tour and go, oh, here, we'll just put you in the game. It's like, but then there's all these problems with his wife and stuff. You could just avoid that and go, this person, we thought they're dead. We know that their brain is still kind of working a la RoboCop, and we're just going to put him into this program.
That's also the premise for, what's it called? The train that wouldn't stop exploding. Source Code. With Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, that's the same premise.
Better title, by the way. The train that wouldn't stop exploding.
Yeah. That's what I can't remember the name of it. That's how it is in my head.
But again, actually, mentioning that character is very similar to Hobbs in that, in that movie, he just was like, I'm going to just keep pushing and pushing, and I'm just going to prove that if I just want something enough, it's going to go that way. And of course, in the movie, it does, which is stupid. And I think probably something that's going to happen in Harsh Realm again the same way. It's like, oh, just keep pushing it long enough, but we'll be able to change the laws of physics.
Right. It'll work. All right, let's move on. Let's get on to episode 4, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about this anymore.
All right. Great.
I think we've dominated.
We've covered it. Episode 4, Kain Osgang.
Dexter! Hey, boy! Dexter!
Little rat's probably an appetizer by now. Here, doggy. Where are you, mangy little mutt?
What the hell was that? Software glitch?
No. Something else.
Hobbs and Pinocchio find themselves in a World War II computer program overrun with Nazis.
Everyone watching this will have seen this sort of trope a bunch of times, which is someone is repeating their
Groundhog
day.
Day.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day. Their day is repeating in one way or another. And the way this is always visually shown is this person has done it so many times, they can time things perfectly. In 3 seconds, that guy's going to trip. And in 10 more seconds, that bird's going to poop on that woman. And what always drives me crazy about that is, if you're doing these days over and over and over, obviously you are going to notice that same things happen at the same time. But who's actually sitting there timing it and going, okay, well, I got to remember next time I do this, it's 3 seconds. So, like, the only reason to ever do that is when you have a conversation with someone, so you can try to impress them with how well you've memorized when things are happening. I'm like, but I would be worrying about other things than how many seconds it takes for something to happen, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, listener, Jordan's rant will make a lot more sense in a few minutes.
That's right. We haven't even talked about
You
it.
jumped way ahead into something nobody knows about yet.
Yeah, maybe we should cut that.
No, I loved it. It was great. It's very true of the episode. The opening of the episode is Staff Sergeant Scott Summers, a character we'll come to meet, who's in
Hold on. Is his
world-
name Scott Summers?
Yeah.
That's Cyclops.
Oh, I'm pretty sure his last name's definitely Summers. I'm pretty sure his first name was
Yeah,
Scott.
I'm pretty sure Scott Summers is Cyclops.
Interesting.
Anyway.
But yeah, he's in a World War II era house that's being attacked by gunfire and grenades, but he himself is quite bored by it all, and he's just making himself a casual cup of tea while it's happening, and he kind of knows where all the bullets are going to be and where all the grenades are going to fall and how to like just deal with the situation.
It's not a bad scene, actually. It's pretty cool.
Oh, it's well executed.
It's like he's really casual and he's just having a key and like a bullet goes by him and then a grenade comes and he just casually stands up and throw it. Like you get the sense very quickly and in a very a very quick sense that
He's done this
that he's
before.
done this before.
Yeah.
Like for this show that takes a long time to drag everything out, this is a pretty concise scene.
Yeah, this
for
is
them.
his Groundhog Day. This is what you were talking about. We then come from this cold open into basically setting up. Again, they do a better job this time. They set up this week's mission, which is some guy at a bar told them about a military assassin named Captain Wolf who can help them possibly kill Santiago. And they drive out to his last known location, which is this wooded area. And Hobbs, Pinocchio, and the dog go for a walk in the woods and step through a glitch that they then can't figure out, oh, that was weird. What was that glitch? They don't know. But what they've done is they've walked into this World War II battle simulation.
It's a game within the game.
Yeah, well, the idea is in early Harsh Realm tests, they were setting up old World War II battles just to test how Harsh Realm worked. And we'll we'll talk about this now. We might as well. This battle is this siege of a bridge in World War II. It's a stalemate. The whole simulation lasts 34 days and then repeats itself. It's only 2 square miles. So when they try to walk out, they just always end up walking back to the bridge. Like there's no way to walk out of it. It's sort of, that's the premise of where they ended up.
Yeah, it's that thing you've seen before in science fiction shows where
it's a classic premise.
Yeah, and it's like we don't have to pay for more than one set. Or they can never leave that one set.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm all for it.
You get a nice little bottle episode.
Yeah.
They're immediately captured by Allied troops, and they kind of meet Summers here. This is where they kind of meet the guy who knows everything that's happening because he knows every line of dialogue every VC is about to say in the game. What's fun, though, is Pinocchio immediately recognizes him because Staff Sergeant Summers, deserted his platoon during the Desert War and like left them to die.
Yeah.
And Pinocchio is very pissed off about this, but he's gotten trapped in a simulation where he can't desert. This is his Twilight Zone. It's what am I looking? Just desserts for poor Sergeant Summers. Mm-hmm. That really is the premise for the show.
And
this
here,
episode.
it's either in this scene or one of the scenes right around it where they make another comment about eating dogs. And I wish I had started from the beginning just with a little tally of how many times they mention eating a dog. And it's a lot.
It's always Pinocchio, too.
Yeah, no, someone else mentions it
is
as
it
well.
this time someone else?
But yeah, Pinocchio mentions it quite often. I think he just really wants to eat the dog. And it's like, just let him. It's not a real dog.
Yeah,
He doesn't
why
need
not?
to eat, so I don't know why he's going on about
I
it.
don't know
but-
why he needs to kill this fake dog.
Anyways.
Hey, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
He kills the dog. It's just going to disappear. There's nothing to eat.
Well, that's true.
So
Yeah,
what
so why
is
is
he
going on
talking
about?
about?
Maybe he wants to eat it alive like a sicko. Take that one sweet bite.
That's the one thing he's always wanted to do in the real world. He's never been allowed.
Yeah.
Eat a live dog.
Oh, and there's something you never see in Harsh Realm. You'd assume people would go nuts and kind of do things they couldn't do in the real world because there was no real consequences, but we're not really seeing that.
No, there's been no like weirdos. We'll get to that episode, I'm sure, though.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure that's one I'm sure on the writer's room board there was like guy who does whatever he wants.
Right.
The other things we learn here is that theoretically in these early Sims, Summers knows that there's a jump port hidden in them, which it could be a rock, it could be a tree, it could be something, but it basically is an exit out of the sim.
Right.
He just hasn't been able to find it. So it kind of gives them a thing to do for the episode. They're like, what we need to do is find this jump port in order to get out of this like looping day. And the other thing I'll mention, I don't know how to, I was trying to find a good way of bringing it up, but it doesn't really fit well because there's not that important to the story. But in this war zone, what we also get to find out is there's a small child. This small little boy is wandering around the war zone, which is great because they immediately pair the dog with the child. Actually, I think at some point, to get them out of harm's way, they place them both in a box.
That's right. Yeah.
So that we, as writers, don't have to figure out what these two characters should be doing.
Yeah. They love introducing characters and then immediately getting them out of the way because they don't know what to do with them. And it's like, well, just don't introduce them because invariably they have nothing to do anyway. So there was no point to introduce them.
It was a pain to know what to do with them, and they do. They show them getting into a large box and then closing the lid on both of them. They're like, leave those characters there for the rest of the episode.
That's done.
Anyway, we kind of established that now they're trying to figure out a way to get out. Since this guy can't find the jump port, Pinocchio comes up with an idea. If this game they're in is a stalemate, a no-win situation, why don't they try something out of the box? They'll blow up the bridge they're supposed to take in the siege, hence removing any reason for the game to run, and hopefully that'll like kick them out of the game.
And let me just jump in real quick, and maybe you'll explain why I'm wrong. But one assumes that during this battle, people die, correct?
Yes.
So those people should glitch out.
Yes.
But then when they reset the game, they're back again?
Yeah, I think that's what's happening.
But they've already mentioned in this show that even digital characters, once they glitch out, they're gone forever. That's why you so upset about Sophie. They're gone forever. So shouldn't these players never come back again?
I feel like this is an early version, so when the game just resets on a loop, they just repopulate the same characters. Because these ones aren't
that's
based
what I mean.
on real
Shouldn't they
people.
just be able to repopulate at any time then?
Oh, I think you could. Like, I don't think there's any reason you can't in Harsh Realm. I think it's just that they're not on a loop.
Right.
If that's
Okay.
what you're asking. I would guess that you could easily bring Sophie back if you just had the right keystrokes.
Right.
I mean, for all I know in this show. Sorry, Jordan, I've got no answers for you.
I'm just trying to pick holes in this not very good world building is what I'm doing.
Fair enough. I think we have to take this World War II thing out of Harsh Realm. It's a little different.
Okay. Fair enough.
Way to give up.
What I also like though is like it's like, hey, did you feel like you didn't get enough brown and gray in the previous world? Well, guess what? Welcome to World War II, where it's even more brown. I was like, it's killing me how visually stagnant and boring this show is.
You're obsessed with this visual thing.
I
I don't
hate-
even notice.
I hate the way it looks.
I don't
hate it.
even notice.
It's so dark, and I don't know what's happening.
I will say one thing. I think you might be slightly wrong because Melanie walked by as I was watching this episode, and she's like, "Oh, good, they got rid of all the like grays. Now it's at least sepia." So she felt there was
maybe.
actually a change of tone in World War II, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess it's World War II. It's got to be sepia."
Yeah, I didn't really, but
I mean, it's a minor improvement, if an improvement at all. So,
well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep harping on this for the next 10 episodes.
you really hate the color
Yeah.
of the show. The
It's-
color correction of the show is your worst enemy.
it's the Jake's jacket for me on this show.
The color correct.
Yeah, color correct.
Whoever did this color correct.
I'm sorry.
Jordan's got
I'm gonna
words
find.
for you.
We'll do a segment just on the color correct.
So yeah, their plan is blow up the bridge. Hopefully that will cause enough, chaos to the simulation since no one can win if the bridge is blown up that they'll get just booted back to Harsh Realm. I guess that's their idea. Actually, he refers to what would happen as hopefully they'll get kicked out and win, or we get digitized when the sim crashes. So I guess getting digitized is what happens when you die.
Right.
It's just like, all right, so that's what the slang for it, I guess, in this world. So they get to work immediately. They find some plastic explosives. Hobbs and Pinocchio sneak out onto the bridge. They kind of put the plastic explosives in. They run a cable to it. Like they're sneaking around at night so the soldiers don't see them. But it's pretty simple. They sneak out there. They sort of put the fuse in, and they basically get it ready to go. And it's all going according to plan, except it's at this point. I know we just said they weren't real characters in this episode, but for no reason, the kid and the dog just wander aimlessly onto the bridge.
Yeah, because I was like, where did they come from? Did I just stop paying attention?
Well, they kind of just put them aside
Yeah.
until this moment when Hobbs and Pinocchio needed to get caught on the bridge. and the kid and the dog just wander dead center down the bridge in the center of the war zone.
And classic Hobbs is like, I gotta save them.
Yeah.
Because he's an idiot.
Hobbs is like, I gotta save this kid. It's very important to me that we save him. So he runs up and basically, I don't know, he like pushes the kid back so the kid can get off the bridge, and he's like immediately captured by the Germans. And his dog runs up, and the dog gets the dog needs his acting scene.
Yeah.
So the dog runs up and like barks at the Germans for like, I don't know, being there. And the Germans start shooting at the dog, not Hobbs, just the dog.
Just the dog, yeah.
And the dog like freaks out, runs away, and like jumps off the side of the bridge. Mm-hmm. It was a very funny shot of a dog just like leaping off the side of a bridge.
Yeah.
And then that's basically, Pinocchio runs back. Hobbs is caught by the Germans. And I guess we just have a slight obstacle to the next part of the show.
Right.
And it is a very slight obstacle because we cut to Hobbs being tortured by the Germans. I really liked it, though. They're all speaking in German, except they keep calling him John Wayne, which is like a good World War II kind of trope. It's just like, John Wayne, ich bin John Wayne.
yeah. Well, that's what the American is to them, is John Wayne.
Every American is John Wayne. Mm-hmm. And at this point, we finally reveal that the assassin they've been looking for, Captain Wolf, has actually just been on the German side the whole time. He got into the same sim. He switched the sides to Germans because the Sims on this side have better food, so he's just hanging out there.
Yeah.
It's fine. He far prefers, unlike Summers, he loves being in this loop. It's the greatest. He doesn't want to leave, but he's going to let Hobbs go so he can at least try to get out. And he gives Hobb a little hint, a little Game Genie secret.
Yeah, Game Genie, nice.
The jump port, it's on the bridge. Mm-hmm. So don't blow up that bridge. At the same time, Pinocchio is swimming under the bridge, I guess. He's going to mount a rescue of Hobbs now that he's been captured because he's a good partner. And as he kind of climbs up the banks on the German side of the bridge, the little boy just steps out from a glitch because, I don't know, I guess they just needed to bring the little boy back.
Yeah.
Pinocchio is just like, well, where were you 10 minutes ago? I could have used that glitch. Like, he actually has a line, something along those lines. Blah, bitty, blah. Pinocchio catches up with Hobbs. Because they're such good soldiers, they're not actually going to leave the sim without Wolf. So they, like, take him a hostage at gunpoint, even though he specifically said, he's like, no, I would like to stay here, please.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to Harsh Realm. I don't like it there. But whatever. They need him. So they take him at gunpoint. They start working their way back to their side of the bridge. And I don't know why. Did you catch this? Something gives them away. Like the Germans notice that.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Like, I guess just because they needed something to happen. The Germans notice them running away. So the Germans start shooting at Wolf and Hobbs and Pinocchio as they run away. Mm-hmm. But the little boy is still with them. And as they're running, the little boy gets shot.
Yeah. And it's almost a shot-by-shot recreation of the first episode when Sophie gets shot. It's the same thing. They're running. It goes into slow-mo. He gets shot behind, goes down to his knee. It's the exact same scene.
Yeah, he scoops the boy up in his arms. Yeah. Hobbs scoops the boy up in his arms. He's like, no, you shot this boy.
And again, he's a digital recreation. He's not a real person.
And then the boy digitizes away in his arms.
Yeah.
And Hobbs has killed 4 for 4 VCs.
Yeah. Every episode,
he just kills some weird little VC sidekick.
Yeah.
And this one, they're not even like they're about halfway down the episode, maybe. Already killed his sidekick.
Yeah.
And also, this kid had no reason to be in the show. They like kept him in he was written in the show to be killed here. He didn't do anything. He just had to get killed in Hobbs' arms so that his streak of killing these VCs could be kept up.
I know what is it? It's like they need to keep giving him motivation to beat Santiago. I'm like, you're the problem.
You're killing.
Yeah.
You're putting these people in harm's way every single time. Anyway, they get back to the side of the bridge, but because Summers is a deserting coward, his only character trait, he has started the fuse already because he's going to blow up the bridge so that at least he gets out. At least he'll reset the sim and get away. But they now know they shouldn't do that because the jump port's on the bridge.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they've already told us the fuse is going to take 8 minutes before it explodes. So it gives Pinocchio a chance to go onto the bridge. He's going to go put the fuse out. But like the second Pinocchio gets on the bridge, he gets shot.
Yeah.
He goes down, he's shot. Hobbs is like, I can't believe this. I have to go save my friend. And Pinocchio kind of rolls off the bridge in the exact same place the dog jumped off so he can get out of the way of these bullets.
Guess what?
It's the jump port. Mm-hmm. Hobbs sees this. So does Wolf. They kind of also run to the bridge. Wolf gets shot. And even though he could easily also just roll off the bridge, he's like, you go ahead. I'm just going to die right here.
Yeah.
I'm good. Summers now realizes the jump port's on the bridge, so he's now running through fire across this bridge. The fuse is getting shorter and shorter. The tension couldn't be higher.
Yeah. It could be higher.
Hobbs leaps off the bridge as it explodes, which is this great slow motion green screen shot of him falling through the air. Just this massive explosion behind him as he goes through the portal jump port. I'm literally doing the moves in my chair.
Yeah, it looks
Jordan
great.
right
You
now.
guys are really missing it.
Jordan has no emotion on his face. So Hobbs escapes. We see Summers caught in the explosion, just exploding on the bridge, and our heroes have escaped the sim. They didn't get anything out of the situation, so they're kind of back at square one, but at least they're alive. Mm-hmm. And that sort of ends the episode, except that we cut back to a bookend of the show, and this World War II sim has restarted, and Summers has also restarted in the sim.
Yeah.
So he's still alive, and he's just caught in this horrible, ironic Twilight Zone, and that's kind of where the episode leads. Oh, this is his torture for being deserted.
Yeah.
Here's my question, though. He knows where the jump port is.
I know. I thought the same thing. I was like, just go over right now, because they make it a thing. You're right. You mentioned it before. It's like a Twilight Zone, that classic. No, it's happening again. It's like, no, but you know the way out now. Just 10 feet. 10 feet over there.
You know now. This is great. This has worked out for you, Summers, big time. It definitely tries to give us the idea that he's stuck in his own personal hell, but everything we know about this show tells us no, this guy can really easily get out now.
Yeah.
The fact that he somehow didn't die in that explosion, which also breaks the rules of the show.
Yeah.
It's fine. But that's the end of the episode. What do you think, Jordan? Now that you've watched episode 3 and episode 4, tell that Twitter guy what's on your mind.
Oh yeah. What's on my mind? Yeah. I don't know if I've had any grand thoughts. I think maybe he got more out of the show than I have. I haven't had maybe the existential crisis that he had after watching this show. He saw the face of God or something. But I was just like, yeah, there's 2 more episodes. There's 2 more episodes of that show.
I will say, I think the quality has improved.
I would agree with you. I think we've said this before, but at a certain point, these shows sort of solidify, and this one's maybe taken even a little bit longer than some. Maybe not. But it knows what it is now. It kind of, what the structure of the show is going to be. You kind of know what the characters are. Nothing's very good, but you know what the show is. If you like it, you know what the show is going to give you at this point.
You can feel like they're getting a better feel for what they can do in the show. And I don't know, I had a lot more fun with these 2 episodes. I was like, if they had just skipped those first 2 episodes and I had started here, I might have still been a little more confused.
Oh, I agree. I actually don't think they needed the first episode. All this stuff of this exposition and building this world, I wish they hadn't done it and just had given kind of hints at it as we went.
Into it,
because
yeah.
under close inspection, it doesn't hold up really. So why even bother creating that? Just put it in the viewer's mind, and they can create their own world and just give hints of it. Because the first episode is the worst episode, and it's like if I'd watched that, I'm not going to keep watching this show.
You would have canceled it too.
I would have canceled it. Yeah.
But yeah, no. 3 and 4. All right, let's actually just get into the ratings then. Inga Fossa, episode 3.
I'm going to give it a 7, but
with a caveat.
One of those points is simply just for the wrestlers. I would have normally a 6, but I'm giving it a 7 because I like those wrestlers.
Those
so much.
wrestlers were a huge boon to the episode. Overall, the episode wasn't the worst, but those wrestlers really put me in a good mood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Oh, we're pretty close on this one.
We're pretty close. All right. What about episode 2? Hold on, let me find the title for it, and I'm gonna butcher this German again. Kane Ausgang. Also, do you know what that means? Kane Ausgang?
No.
It's on the bridge in the actual episode. That's what's written on the bridge.
Oh.
It means no exit. Because that's the whole show. There's no exit from the sim.
But there is an exit. There's a jump port right off the bridge.
There is.
So what do you give it?
I'm going to give that episode a 7.
Wow. I'm going to give it a 6. I'm going to go down on this one.
Really? I liked it more than the last episode.
No, I liked episode 3 more.
I thought this one was a really fun little sci-fi premise that was pretty well executed, and I had a good time.
I looked up in the first episode. Remember when Tom first goes into Harsh Realm? It says on each side of his chair, Siege and Perilous.
Oh, yeah.
It does mean something. And what it is Siege and Perilous, according to Arthurian legend, is the vacant seat at the round table reserved by Merlin for the knight who would one day be successful in the quest for the Holy Grail.
Oh, so it's just setting up.
That he's like the chosen one.
Yeah. That makes sense then. I mean,
I don't know if that's interesting to
is-
anyone, but I looked it up.
it kind of, it just builds into that mythology. Really? So that's it's from the Arthurian legends.
Yeah, who knew?
I've never seen that in a movie. Someone get on that.
So good for you, Chris Carter.
Chris Carter pulling deep, some deep cuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I think that's about it for the episode this week. Thanks for joining us. If you want to talk to us about Harsh Realm or any of the other things we're watching, you can get a hold of us at continuumdrag@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at continuumdrag. I think this will be a good week to look at it because I think we're going to have those little men, those little zip files on there as a little GIF. We'll find some other good stuff too, probably. I think there's a good explosion jump in here. There's a few good GIFs in these episodes, I think. I'm looking forward to seeing what you pull, Jordan.
Thank you.
And until next time, Jordan, it was good talking with you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, pay at the pump.
Continuum Drag is recorded at Astrolab Studios in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Ruxedler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Emily Carter, and Dwayne Wright.